Boys, girls, all my Trombaholics out there, welcome back to Otherobert. I'm Joe. No Rob for this review. If you've seen some of Rob's past videos that he's made on the channel, you will know that we no longer have the live shows for right now. So until we can get this whole thing situated, it's just going to be me for these Walking Dead reviews. So, all right, let's get into it. We are reviewing The Walking Dead, The Same Boat. This week's episode of The Walking Dead. And this was a very Carol-centric episode, and really Maggie as well. And we really saw the kind of passing of the crazy torch here. We saw Carol kind of ground herself a little bit, and Maggie kind of unground herself a little bit. So this episode starts off continuing from last week with Negan's group, who we can assume is Negan's group. They're the Saviors. I think that's pretty much been confirmed. They've said it. And they have Carol, Maggie, and the whole proposed trade and all that. And it's really just a very, not slow episode. It's an episode full of just a lot of dialogue, and it's always just keeping your attention. It really does not bore at any time. I know a lot of people are just fans of when The Walking Dead does the action sequences. I know a few people like that really just like it when the show does that, and they hate episodes like this. But this was a very strong episode. This one was completely character driven and really gave us a lot to work with here with Maggie and Carol, and really some things to kind of sink our teeth into when it comes to the characters. Like I said, Carol, you see it throughout the episode, and you're kind of wondering what she's doing here. Because Carol's really been this evolving character the entire series. She's always evolved, and I have to say she keeps evolving. She's continuing to evolve even now. We saw her go from a weak, for lack of a better word. She was a very weak character in the beginning, and we saw her become this just brutal Rambo type killer. And now we saw a couple weeks ago, when we saw in the premiere, the wolf, the main wolf, and Denise, when he was helping her and Carol shot the wolf, I think that was pretty much what snapped in her head. And that's when I think she realized that she had gone too far. Because she saw the wolf trying to help Denise. So from that moment, you see in her eyes this kind of this look like, I think I've gone too far. And since then, it's kind of, we haven't got too much Carol, but the amount that we did before this seems like she's, something clicked. So in this episode, we see her kind of doing these kind of these things that you would not expect from Carol in the beginning. And we see that just for the rest of the episode. She's really, really evolving here. She realized the entire time that she was going to have to do what she did, and that kind of goes back to what Tobin said last week with her being this mother character, and it makes sense from her character. It made sense last week when he said it. We look at moments like Terminus, where she went in by herself and saved everyone, and the whole mother, gimmick. It made sense. It made sense when Tobin said it. It made sense last week, and made even more sense this week because Carol wasn't concerned about herself, and I think she was really freaking out in the beginning because she realized she was going to have to do all this again, and I think it's taking its toll on her. And she did it for Maggie. She did it for the baby. She is still this mother type character. And then we get into Maggie, and Maggie started getting pretty violent. We saw a moment where someone was dead and she kept going. I think this is what I was saying before with the passing of the torch. I think Carol's starting to ground herself, and Maggie's starting to lose it. And maybe it has to do with this kind of mother figure that they're doing. Maggie's about to be a mother. Maybe she's kind of seen these attributes displayed by Carol with how she protects the people around her, how she'll do anything at any cost to protect others, and maybe she's starting to adapt that for herself. I don't know. At this point, the seeds are there for Maggie to kind of become this Carol type character. Don't know if she will or not, but they're planting some interesting seeds when it comes to Maggie's character. And it was very interesting to have these two paired off this week in terms of the characters that we know. When it comes to the Saviors, they were interesting characters to have paired off with these because I'm sorry, I missed the name, the main Savior, the redheaded woman, she was very much like Carol. And it was interesting to see that back and forth. They were kind of perfect foils for each other, and they built this woman up. She was a force to be reckoned with, just with how she presented herself, the words that she chose to use, really just the way she handled all the situations, everything she did. They presented her in this one episode as this force, and it built towards an interesting climax towards the end. And for the sake of time purposes, I'm going to start to head towards the end here. This was a huge character episode for both Maggie and Carol, and we have a lot of things to work with going forward for the two of these characters. I'm starting to think, and I've been saying this all season, I've been saying that I think Negan's gonna debut in the finale. And I've been saying that since kind of the beginning because I think that's when it would pack the most punch. You have him debut in the finale and kill someone that people love, an original, right? How dare you kill an original? Because if they're going to debut this new villain, they have to. They need people to want him to get killed from Rick or something like that. You know, they're going to need heat on him. So what better way to put heat on him than kill an original character? Is it going to be Carol? That's starting to become more and more of a possibility because her story, although it's still going, it seems to kind of be in a confusing place. She doesn't quite know what she wants to do. It seems like a pretty opportune time for that character to be killed off from a storytelling perspective, or we see this play out. I still think it's going to be Glenn because from a storytelling perspective, Glenn makes the most sense. Glenn, pushing for the pregnancy, everything like that. Pretty much Glenn is a beacon of hope right now. And they're going to need Negan to really just kind of smash the hope. And for those of you who, know what happens in the comics, you know why I'm saying smash. But I'm not talking about just because of comics. But from the TV perspective, it makes the most sense for Glenn to die because he's a beacon of hope right now. And what better way to introduce this villain than in the episode you introduce him, smash this beacon. So Glenn, I think, won't make it to next season. However, Carol is starting to become a huge possibility in my eyes. I think Carol is either going to be someone that either Negan kills off, or at this point, I'm starting to think Carol might either commit suicide, maybe let a walker get her, something like that, or sacrifice herself, right? She's this mother type character that they keep letting us know that, and they're really playing into that. So she might sacrifice herself for someone else, maybe even Maggie. I don't know. There's a lot to work with here. This really juicy episode in terms of character and dialogue and everything like that. But I'm going to wrap this review up. Let me know what you guys thought of this week's episode of The Walking Dead, The Same Boat. And subscribe because it takes around this much effort to do so. And until next time, you have been traumatized.